All right, good evening. Welcome everybody for Monday, August 13th. This is the regular meeting of the council team of the Municipality of South Dundas. Have a motion, let it be resolved that we rise and reconvene into open session at 6:04 p.m. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Let it be resolved that council direct administration to carry out all actions under the specified actions requests in the closed session minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Confirmation of agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments? Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to pull item 11L from the consent agenda, the amended school bus stop cameras, and move it to discussion.
Okay, moving 11L to discussion. School bus arms. Any other additions, deletions, or amendments? Seeing none, have a motion that let it be resolved that council municipality approve the amended agenda. Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Any members of the team disclosing tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to the meeting to consider under the McMillan Drain, Section 76 report. Monica Shade is here to share information with us tonight. Go ahead, Monica. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Is it good? Okay. So good evening, and thank you for your attendance at tonight's meeting to consider for the McMillan Drain. My name is Monica Shade, and I'm a professional engineer with Shade Group, Inc., and I was appointed by the Municipality of South Dundas to prepare an engineer's report under Section 76 of the Drainage Act, which is to update the schedule of assessment to allow for maintenance. Tonight's presentation will include an introduction on the purpose of this meeting to consider, a brief history of the existing drainage system, the reason this process was initiated, a summary of my engineer's report, and an overview of what the next steps will be in the process of adopting the new report. The engineer's report was submitted to the township on June 27th, after which the municipality circulated an invitation to this meeting to all of those assessed within the watershed. Given the significant number of landowners within the watershed, the mailout included a link to where the engineer's report could be accessed digitally, and hard copies were then made available by request from the township for those who wanted printed copies. This meeting is to formally present the report and allow members of council and landowners an opportunity to provide input, ask questions, all before provisionally adopting the report. Following this input, council will decide if the project should proceed or if there's any reason that the report should be sent back for further revisions. Assuming the decision is to proceed, the report is expected to be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw later this evening. The McMillan Drain was originally constructed in the early 1900s under petition. The most recent updated engineer's report is from 1970 and was authored by Stidwell and Associates Limited. The McMillan Drain is described as having a total linear length of approximately 24,000 feet and serves not only to drain lands adjacent to the McMillan Drain, but also serves as the main trunk drain for the number of large tributaries. In addition to serving lands in South Dundas, the system outlets into North Dundas, and a few properties in North Dundas are also assessed. The municipality of North Dundas has been involved throughout the duration of this project. So this slide provides an overview of the watershed for the McMillan Drain. The red outline represents the limits of the watershed, the blue line is the drain, and the orange lines throughout represent various other municipal drains and private watercourses. It's worth noting that the McMillan Drain serves as an outlet for a number of other municipal drains, including the Barclay Federally Drain, the McMillan Uyghur Drain, the Kyle Municipal Drain, the Grantley Creek Municipal Drain, all just to name a few. It's important to note that these other municipal drains are adopted under separate bylaws and under separate reports than the McMillan drain. So while they are within the same watershed, the assessment schedule for these other municipal drains has not been updated. This also means that landowners can be assessed under multiple reports. For example, a landowner at the southern limits of the watershed would be assessed into the nearby municipal drain, such as the Barclay-Federley or the Kyle drain, and then also assessed into the McMillan drain. The Section 76 process was initiated as the municipality had requests for maintenance on the system. Per the specifications of the Drainage Act, the municipality is legally obligated to maintain the system. However, the engineer's report for the McMillan drain is over 50 years old, and there have been some changes to the land use and property lines since the report was last adopted. To ensure costs for maintenance continue to be fairly assessed to all of those who benefit from and use the drainage system, an update to the schedule of assessment needed to be completed before the township can continue to undertake the maintenance works. An on-site meeting was held on April 12th, 2023 at the Dunbar Recreation Center. Approximately 30 to 40 landowners attended. The on-site meeting serves primarily as a fact-finding meeting, as an opportunity to let landowners know that an update is pending and inquire if anyone has concerns with the current operation of the system. No concerns with the current capacity or performance were brought forth, so no proposed improvements have been sought out. The scope of work covered in the engineer's report was limited to updating the schedule of assessment to allow for fair billing of future maintenance costs. The assessment schedule includes a distribution of costs for each of the properties within the watershed, and costs were generally distributed using the factored area method. The factored area method refers to 3 different categories for determining an assessment: the land use, distance from the drain, and location within the watershed. The split of outlet liability and benefit liability was kept in the same proportion as the 1970 engineer's report. And furthermore, the 1970 engineer's report referred to a pre-approved split of 86% against the lands and roads in South Dundas and 14% against the lands in North Dundas. This split was also maintained in the updated assessment schedule. Upon completion of my presentation, members of council and landowners will be given an opportunity to ask questions. Following the question and answer period, council will decide if the project will proceed or if the report should be sent back to the engineer for edits or additions. Assuming the report proceeds and no changes are requested, the report would be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw later this evening. The bylaw will then be circulated to those within the watershed, along with an invitation to the Court of Revision. The Court of Revision is the first of 3 opportunities for appeals in this process. Each appeals body hears different types of appeals. The Court of Revision is held locally and allows landowners an opportunity to submit an appeal with respect to their assessment. Tribunal would hear appeals with respect to technical aspects of the project, while the referee would hear appeals on legal aspects of the work. Tribunal hearings and referee appeals are only scheduled if needed, whereas sittings of the Court of Revision will be scheduled regardless. If you are thinking you would like to appeal your assessment, please ensure that the appropriate paperwork is submitted. If you have concerns or questions about the project that you wish to discuss privately, myself or Chris St. Thomas, the Township's Drainage Superintendent, are available to discuss. As appeals can add significant cost and time delays to a project, we are always looking for ways to address as many questions and concerns before going down the formal appeals process. So that concludes my presentation. I'll pass it back to council for question period. If you do have specific questions about your property, such as how your assessment was specifically calculated, I'm also happy to arrange for a private phone call.
Thank you, Ms. Haig. Excellent work on our drainage information. Good report. Lots of
you.
details, obviously.
Yep.
First up, council, any questions at this point? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Rod. The only question I had right now was, and it may have said in here, and I read it on Saturday, and I just can't remember. There was the portion that was drained in South Stormont was not included.
Correct.
How big of an area was that, and why was it not included?
I did not verify the size of that, but that is related back to a statement that was included in the 1970 report, and from my understanding, predated the 1970 report as well, that the municipalities at the time of one of the previous adoptions of the report decided that the portion within South Stormont was small enough that it wasn't worth the administrative process of going to recover those costs.
Very good, thank you. Any questions, comments from any landowners here tonight? And thank you for coming, everyone, appreciate it. Okay, seeing none. Anything you want to add, Ms. Shade?
Nope, that's it, that's all.
Okay, excellent.
Perfect.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes our meeting to consider for the McMillan Drain under section 76 of the report. Move to item 6A, adoption of minutes. Have a motion, let it resolve that the minutes of the following meeting, including closed session, be adopted as circulated, July 10th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we'll move to Clerk LeBrun.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Brock. Just to interrupt for a moment, I would ask if we could switch the delegations.
Yes.
And allow Shelley Spencer to go on behalf of Matilda Memorial Rec Committee as we pull up our Zoom call for the telecommunications tower.
Excellent. So we will move to Delegation 7B, the Matilda Memorial Recreation Committee, and here represented tonight is Shelley Spencer. Welcome, Shelley. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for inviting us to council as well as the South Dundas municipality and the members of the public that are here. The question was raised, who is the Matilda Memorial Recreation Committee and what do we do? The Matilda Memorial Recreation Committee was, let me just forward this slide. This report has been prepared specifically for this meeting. And the question was asked who we are. We are a committee that was formed in 2016 to satisfy a requirement from the community because the community of Brinston, where the park is located, felt that the park was neglected and there was certainly something that we could do to help that. It's a very small community, and expecting the municipality of South Dundas to maintain that park and provide programming was a little unrealistic, and the community decided there was something they could do to help. So we had a vision, and our vision was not what we saw at the park at the time. And we discussed with the municipality of South Dundas at the time what we should do and how we should approach best serving the community. And the first thing that we were told was we had to have a mission statement. So Brenda Brunt kindly helped us to create a mission statement, and we've tried very hard to stick to that mission statement. And it basically says that we are a community group formed to benefit the park and to provide programming at that park so that the community has something to do and that they can feel proud of. Some of the things that we've accomplished in the last 6 years, with the assistance of private donors and the municipality of South Dundas, who has always been very supportive of our group, we have converted the very badly outgrown, overgrown, outdated baseball diamond that was there. There's been stone dust applied and the fencing's been repaired, and we've moved the poles from inside the ball diamond outside. We've installed lights. The municipality has very recently put capping on the fence as a security feature, which is fabulous. We've repaired or requested that the municipality repair some of the bleachers. And we got new player benches, which was really nice for the players. We've also moved the small play structure that at one time was the only play structure at the park closer to the ball diamond so that families that are playing ball can watch their children play while they play ball. And due to a very generous local donor, or the local donor's family, we've installed a very large play structure for the size of our park. And it's used quite often. The outdoor rink, we've resurfaced it, we've put new boards on it, we have painted pickleball lines on the court, we've recently resealed it, we put boards around the park perimeter of the rink, and we are now in the process of replacing those boards again because, surprisingly enough, that little rink gets a lot of use. Our main project this year has been the main building. And I know a lot of people look at that building at the park and say, there's nothing happening. But there's a lot that's gone on behind the scenes. Originally, our committee found out through word of mouth that the intention was the building would be demolished because there was no immediate use for it, and it was a burden on the municipality. So as a committee, we discussed it, we voted on it, and we decided that we thought that, again, there was something that we could do. So we have had several meetings. We've had a community input meeting. We're actually scheduling another community input meeting as soon as we start the renovation in earnest so that we can actually show people physically what it is we're doing. But behind the scenes, we've managed to get a septic approval for the intended use of the building. We've had drawings done. Gary Ruft was recommended by the municipality, and we used him. And then we moved on to Stonegate, who did fabulous detailed drawings for us so that we could apply for permitting and we could get contractors in, and the contractors actually could look at the paperwork and say, this is exactly what this group needs. They've got the venting outlined, they've got the lighting outlined, all of the electrical is outlined. It's very detailed. It's 21 pages plus an additional 7 pages for the electrical. So it's a wonderful document if somebody wants to see what the plans are for that building. We've applied for and been granted the permit for demolition and renovation at the building, which was a big step forward because there was a lot of conversation and rhetoric about how we should go about doing it. It's a small community, so there's a lot of people that think that they can do things without going through the proper channels, and we decided that that probably wasn't the best approach because it's better to work with people than against them. Recently, we've got the request to dig verification done, so now we're just waiting for quotes to come in. And fortunately, we have a lot of the quotes in, and we're teetering on the edge of making a decision to actually start the renovation project. We just don't know whether we should bring the community in to look at the building before we actually start. I think a lot of the people that were interested have already seen it. We've got how many businesses are there in Princeton? Half a dozen. But of that half a dozen, 90% of them have stepped forward and said that they would help and they would use the building once it was available. Our intention is to create a hub for the community, not necessarily to rent it out, but we certainly won't turn down donations. What are the strengths of the group? Well, I think the community as a whole, I mean all of South Dundas, would be hard-pressed to find a more dedicated group than the group at that little park. How many people live in Princeton? 50? And we always have an abundance of volunteers to help flood the rink or service our events. We have 5 major events every year, and we always have people to help us provide that service to the community. We also have an abundance of external support. We have the municipality of South Dundas, who, generally speaking, I know everybody likes to complain, but if we have a problem and we say we need a sink looked at, or we've got lights that we're having a problem with, the municipality is always there to support us, and we certainly appreciate that. We also have funding advantages in that there is a community fund that helps us provide a lot of what we do at the park, and the local businesses are also very eager to step forward and help where they can, either providing services or financial support. We've proven that there is a need in that very small community. Vandalism, I would like to think, has dropped dramatically now that there's actually activity at the park, not only because there's something for the youth to do, and it's not just the youth, I'm not trying to pinpoint everything bad that happens on the youth, but generally speaking, it tends to be people who don't have a job to go to that go and vandalize. And vandalism can be something as simple as throwing cigarette butts on the ground, but in the past we've seen a lot more than that. I think the biggest proof of a need for that park is when we have an event and we have so many kids show up for the Easter egg hunt that we don't have enough bags to hand out to them, and we have to do a special prize for the kids that are left. So we're very pleased to see that the park is being used. However, that being said, there are weaknesses as well. Because it's a small community, there's a very small pool of people to draw from for volunteers. For example, on Monday nights, when I open the canteen for ball, the South Dundas Ladies ball team plays there every Monday night, I'm relying on student volunteers to help me with the canteen, which is great because they get their student volunteer hours, but it makes it difficult on nights like this when I can't be there, because then I have to try and find somebody else to supervise the kids. Access to funding can be challenging because we as a committee have fundraised and we have so much money in the bank account that we can pay our bills with. If we have a major bill, for example, this main building project, we are going to have $45,000 in plumbing bills. I have to stagger those payments because we only have a set number of dollars in the bank account. And between releasing the funds, getting reimbursed for the funds, and fundraising at our next event, there's quite often a big gap in time. And I can't expect a plumber to come in and do the work and then wait for 90 days to get their money back. It's not going to happen. So that is a challenge. The availability of contractors is another huge challenge because with COVID, everybody's backlogged and trying to get quotes has been ridiculous. We have a policy within our committee that part of our due diligence is we have to be accountable, and we need to make sure that we have 3. We would like to have 3. Sometimes we only have 2, but we definitely can't move forward with a project if we only have 1 quote. We need more than 1 quote because we have to prove that it's an honest and sincere and reasonable quote to entertain. And that has been one of the major challenges with this project, because trying to get people to give us quotes was difficult. And I think they made the $5 million liability requirement a bigger challenge than it should have been. My husband has a small business. We have $5 million worth of liability, and it certainly doesn't put us out of business. But that was one of the issues we had. I think there's a need for that building in that community, and that's why we were driven to make sure that the building stayed there. Local businesses have expressed an interest in using that building as a place to do health and safety training, have their awards banquets, so that they don't have to send their employees out of town to have these services provided. And I think, I'd like to believe that if we provide that service, they in turn will provide us with what we need. Not just us in that park, but us as South Dundas. If we can keep those people utilizing the services in our area, it keeps the funds in our area. It is our hope that that building will once again become a hub. At one time, that building was the library, it was the municipal offices, it was the hub of the community. The hub will be different now because it will be mostly recreation. It's not going to be, the core activity of the municipality, but it will still be just as important a factor. Our next steps, and we're hoping it will happen within the next 6 months, is to complete the heating, plumbing, and electrical in that building, get the demolition done, and get ready for the next stage, which will be the finishing stages, getting the walls painted, getting the lights installed, all of the typical finishing that you would do if you were doing a home renovation, the flooring. Our final stage won't probably be for another year or two, and that will be installing the commercial kitchen in the building. But I do foresee that the building will be usable before we actually have the commercial kitchen in place. But that will mean that we need to have the proper accessible washrooms, the proper accessible doors. So phase 2 is the commercial kitchen. For that project, we will be looking for additional funding. We will be going to the local businesses to see how interested they really are. Are they really willing to give us money to complete the project? And we'll probably look at doing bigger fundraisers. Right now, our biggest fundraisers are Pig Roast and Winter Carnival. We do a lot of small things at the park, like the Easter egg hunt and the tree lighting, but that's all giving back to the community. They are not fundraisers. They are not money makers for us. So, in conclusion, may seem like there's not a lot of projects or a lot of things happening at that little park, but the first 3 pictures show what the park looked like 6 years ago. And through a handful, and when I say a handful, I mean 5 to 10 people maximum, the park went from looking like that to what it is today. And the pictures at the bottom of that screen show you the things that typically happen at any given day at that park. From hockey in the wintertime to pickleball on Saturday mornings and Monday night ladies' ball. I'm proud of what we've done so far, and I know we can do a lot more. I'd like to thank Council and the municipality for giving us the opportunity. I'd like to thank everybody that has helped us make these projects a reality. And if anybody has any questions about what's happening at the park or what you can do to help us at the park, we are always ready, willing, and able to talk to anybody.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. I'm sure we'll have a few questions, at least I do, and comments for sure. So first off, absolutely want to commend you and all the volunteers, have participated just within the last year, but over the years been there a few times, but certainly more in the last year with the pig roast, the tree lighting, the Easter hunt I did miss, but certainly the Winter Carnival events. But certainly, and I commend everybody, and I know, we've used some of the ball teams have used the diamonds on and off, and we're certainly excited to have, baseball growing and a diamond available and the ladies there, and I'm sure lots of people are quite interested about pickleball lines have been painted, so that's excellent news for all our pickleball fans. So certainly commend you and your team, so thank you for all that. We did do a facilities tour earlier this year, and obviously looked at some of our great buildings that are new and up to snuff and being used, and obviously we went to the Matilda building, which I would say has a great challenge ahead. For sure, and I'm sure we had lots of comments and thoughts when we toured the facilities. Super happy with with the rink going on, the ball diamond, and all the activity, the play structure, excellent. But obviously, we challenges at the building itself. With that being said, so your group have a vision, and you have phase one to bring it back to. Are you planning to fund all of phase one through your fundraising, or are you looking for funds from the municipality for this building?
We would only approach the municipality if we needed, we have access to the South Branch Community Fund, and that creates a huge portion of our budget. We have, we would like to think that we are using that money wisely, and that is part of why I'm diligent about making sure that we get 3 quotes for every aspect so that we know that we are getting the most for the money that we're spending. At this point, we are not asking the municipality for any funding. We think that we can make it happen, and we may need an extension on our lease. We have a 5-year lease for that building before it gets revisited. Unfortunately, 2 years of our lease were taken up by COVID, and it was very difficult to get people to come to the building and give us quotes or try and do anything in that time frame. But I think the municipality and council will see that if we're willing to put our time and effort and money into it, it's worth extending the lease. I know the municipality is paying the heat and hydro right now. Our intention is to take a portion of that or all of that over when we've got the building functional. The biggest assistance that we could get is to have some kind of bridge financing between when we issue a check for payment on one of our contractors and the release of the money from the South Branch Wind Farm, because if it takes us 5 months or 4 months or 3 months to get that money that's already been allocated for the project back into our hands again, I can't expect the contractors to wait that long. It's not feasible to do that.
Okay.
I could privately fund it, or I could ask for private funding, but then it creates a conflict, and I don't expect the community to get into a conflict situation by bridge financing. We know the money's available. We know the money's there. I don't overspend.
Right. And when does your current lease expire?
It was signed in 2019, so it would be 2024.
Excellent. Okay. I'll turn it over for any other questions, comments from the council team. Councillor Ward?
Thank you, Shelley, for your presentation. You and I have had many a discussion about this. I'll be honest, when we first went on our tour, the building was in really rough shape.
It is.
So I think at the beginning I wasn't so sure. We hadn't seen the plans. I hadn't seen the plans. Council hasn't seen the plans, I don't think, at this point. I have now seen the plans, so I do appreciate the time that the committee's put into that. So I definitely think that you guys have done a lot of work, and I'm looking forward to it moving along. I'm sure the committee's looking forward to moving it along as well. I've full confidence that you guys will get to where you need to be. You have a lot of support behind you. You have my support for sure. I really appreciate everything you do. You say that you're proud of what you've done. I think I can say for sure that I'm very proud of what you guys have done. My son enjoys that park. I used to enjoy Monday nights. Now I spend my Monday nights here, but it's a great community hub for a small community. So I think perhaps we can go back to staff and look for the items that you're looking for, the lease extension and perhaps some sort of financing. We'll have to come back to the committee with that. But I think too, and I'll just be honest with council, I did ask Shelley to come because the South Branch Community Fund is also on this agenda later on, and they have put a request in for that building. So I just asked Shelley to come to share what they're doing in that park so we can all understand why they're asking for that fund.
I certainly don't. We are totally transparent. If anybody has any questions about the budget, the spend, the plans, the drawings, they are open and available anytime anybody wants to see them. Our intention is not to try and blindly push things in. We want the community to support us, and if we spend money foolishly, we will not have that support. So if you want the plans sent anywhere, just let me know.
Well, I'm sure we all would like to, we can connect and go and visit the site again and look at your plans and look it through for sure. That would be super next steps for us, absolutely, as you've started down this journey. It's only been a few months since we were there, and you've done some great work. And with the South Branch Fund Committee kicking off and those meetings happening, this is great. Super excited to have things happening at that hub. Deputy Mayor, comments?
Yeah, just a couple questions. Again, I'm going to commend the committee you sit on today. I commend the startup of the committee. I was on council when we started that group, or that group was started. So I commend all of the work that you've done. I just wrote 1981 is the year that I started skating at that rink, and I could tell you're right. I mean, there was a lot of kids back then that utilized that little park, and it was much smaller then than it is today, and it's fabulous for a small community how much that park gets used. I think it's great. A couple of questions though on the building, and again, I'm just curious. I'm not questioning, but I'm looking at and I'm just advancing here a little bit on the application that's going to be coming before us. I mean, your total estimate cost for your building renovations, $337,000?
That was what we projected
Yeah.
when we took the project on in 2019. I'm sure there will be changes to that. There
Okay.
always is with any project. We do have a contingency in that budget. If we have to downscale certain things, maybe we'll end up just with a kitchen to use and not an actual commercial kitchen. Those are things that we'll have to look at as we progress with the project itself. We're certainly willing to go out and do more fundraising and do what we can, but if it is not feasible for us to do what we have originally set out to do, the plan will change. We may not have epoxy coated flooring put down like we wanted because we thought that would be a very low maintenance flooring. We may end up putting in commercial grade carpeting and replacing it after 5 years because it's more cost effective. Those are things that we'll have to investigate as we progress with the project.
So what's your vision on when you'd like to see this project completed?
Oh.
Like, is it a 4
By the end of the
5
lease,
year?
by the end of this lease.
Okay, aggressive.
We've waited a very long
Yeah.
time for that building. And if it means that the kids that come to the park for an Easter egg hunt and get there and it's pouring rain, now have a place that we can hide eggs under chairs and do things with them, that's what we want it for.
So moving forward then, how do you see the committee managing this building? And I don't mean you kind of talked about maybe renting some space. Have you guys talked about?
We haven't really talked about renting space. The idea behind community business is using that space for WSIB training, for example, is they would approach the committee and say, I've got a group of 15 people, I'd like to do a training program. Sure, we can facilitate that if you'd like to use the building. We would like a donation.
Okay.
And we want you to clean the building when you're done. We don't want to have to employ someone to clean the building, and we don't expect the municipality or anybody else to come in and clean up after groups that have used the building.
So you guys are looking to kind of operate this building as you would own the building, right?
Well, that's why we signed a lease,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
thought that we were there, we used the park, and we can see what the community needs. If there's no need for it, then by all means, we can hand it back to the municipality. They've got a fully redone building, and they can rent it out themselves if
Yeah,
they...
and certainly I'm not suggesting that. I'm just trying to get a understanding. I mean, I know
That
we've
is our
got-
intention.
We've got other community buildings, and there's one in particular that's run by committee, and it seems to be run fairly well. So,
Are you referring to the one in Dunbar?
yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
it is. It's a
yeah.
beautiful
Yeah,
building.
so I mean, there's something that you can kind of learn from, I guess, and I certainly would encourage it. I mean, anything you can do to, again, just generate, and I don't mean business, but generate more flow into Brinston it's only a help to your committee and to others within the community. So, yeah, I commend you for what you're doing as well. I think you guys done a lot in the short few years for sure. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you for asking Shelley to come in and present. So thank you.
Any other comments, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thanks for coming. Basically, we all did the facility tour, and I think that we all stepped out of that building, and the first thing that we said was, "Oh my God, this is basically fit to be torn down." So that's basically how we all left. And so I was just, how much out of pocket has already been spent on like all the preliminary drawings and permitting, like the whole process so far to start down the path? Approximately.
Without tax, about $14,000.
Okay.
That includes the septic, Collard and Associates fees, that includes rough drafting, that includes stone gates, preliminary drafting and revisions to the plans that they made.
Like there's parts of that building that are over 100 years old.
Yes?
And at some point in time, you have to update. And to put, it was $337,000 in 2019 into a building, and now it's going to be 400 today. I'm assuming.
What would it cost?
How much more would it cost to put a new building there?
Well, at
That's
$425 a square foot to build a basic building, the building's 1,800 square feet. What would it cost? $750,000.
Okay. Okay. That's the path I was kind of going down.
And we looked at that.
You looked at that, okay.
We looked at that because if we said to the municipality, yeah, this is too big a project, can't do this, this is way beyond us, we would never get a building back at that park again. Even if we fundraised and said, here's $700,000, nobody would think that that was the right spot to spend $700,000 in a building.
All right.
And that was the justification for
Okay.
us stepping up and saying, this community needs this building.
All right. So I was just curious if that was.
It's smaller than Matilda Hall, so somebody that wants to have a birthday party for a kid but doesn't want the mess in their own basement can come and use that building
All right.
without renting Matilda Hall, where the kids run how many hundred square feet, and they're in bathrooms and you don't know where they are and they're
Yeah.
gone on you. That building's small enough that you can corral them into one area and keep
Yeah.
them there.
Okay. I was just curious if before this whole process started, if anybody had even considered a new building. I was just curious.
We
How
have
that
actually
went.
considered building a gazebo. We've considered closing in the canopy that, thank you very much to the municipality, it looks beautiful. We're really happy about it. We considered suggesting that get closed in, but the building was there. And structurally, it's in amazing shape for the age of it. We're planning on replacing the windows, we're planning on replacing the doors. I've just done all the eaves trough on that building, so that will eliminate a lot of the water issues that we're having, and has.
All right.
Does
Okay,
that
I was
make
just-
sense?
Yeah, I was just curious if, because it's a lot of money to renovate a 100-year-old building. That's the only point I was getting at. It's, at some point in time, you have to start over. So I didn't know how much a new building would cost, but I was just curious, that's all. So, all right,
Great.
that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Brown, I guess I hate to ask this question because it's a risk question that you probably don't know the answer, and you're going to say it's never going to happen. But are we protected as a municipality in case, in come 2024, the current committee says, hey, we raised so much funds, we can't finish this building, what happens then?
What would you consider the risk to be?
Well, risk is the committee walks away.
But you've invested nothing in it. It's been our money that's been invested in it. So what's your risk?
Well, the risk is we got a building that may be half finished and not half finished, so then we may have to then,
So demolish
Finish
it.
it
That's
up or
what the
demolish
plan
it.
was originally, right?
yeah.
The plan was to demolish it. So if you demolish it with an approved septic and whatever else, a new eaves trough on it, then you're really not out anything.
Okay.
Unless I get run over by a truck when I leave here
No,
tonight.
we're not going there.
I really don't think that's going to happen, but
Okay, okay,
the municipality is not out anything
okay.
because the committee and the South Branch Community Fund have funded everything to date. And when I was talking about bridge financing, that's money that I don't expect the municipality, or we don't expect the municipality to be out of pocket for. That's money that's already sitting in a fund just waiting for the release of.
Okay, so I just want to ask.
Yeah, and
I think it's,
You know,
at the end of the day, it is a municipal building.
Yes, it is.
And we do have to protect our interests, which is your interest as well, don't get me wrong. on that.
Absolutely, it
We do have
is.
to protect the municipality's interest in that building, so.
I think anybody watching tonight, here tonight, might read an article about it, a post, conversations, would have some of the same questions you would have, right? Or Councillor Smith, right? Well, how much is a new building? Well, who's the risk? Certainly questions that would arise. So I think it's just a
Absolutely.
great opportunity to have the conversation on that and candid points and very candid answers, which I really appreciate, Shelley, for you and your group so far and your presentation, the details, and let's go
Thank
from here,
you.
right? Let's go from here.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
questions.
Yeah.
Because I think you raised questions that other people wanted to ask, but never did.
So I think for, maybe just for us, for the council team, our next steps, I'll ask Clerk LeBrun to set up an opportunity for us to visit the site again with the
Yep.
plans and maybe take a look at what, how things are thinking about, and we can involve Director Jansen, facilities too, as he's the overall facility owner, and yeah, let's just get the next details down and see where we go next. And,
Perfect.
see how we help you and see how we support you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, sorry for that brief interruption. We're just setting up a Zoom call for our next delegation, which is 7A, the Communications Tower, public consultation. We have Fours Brother Group online. Jacqueline, can you hear us? Jacqueline says you're muted if you can hear us. Oh.
I just tried.
Jacqueline,
Testing?
can you hear us? We cannot
There we
hear
go.
you. We're trying to connect.
Can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me?
Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Can you hear me? Testing?
Just barely, just barely. We're going to double check
Are
our
you able
system
to hear
here.
me? Testing?
There we go. Okay, go ahead, Jacqueline. Just we'll see if we can hear you okay.
All right, testing. Testing?
Yep. You're good.
Able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Testing?
Keeps disconnecting on her end.
Testing, testing. Testing. Testing.
We can hear you. Can you hear
Can
us?
you hear me now? If you're talking, I cannot hear you. Let me try one more thing here.
Can you hear us
All right,
now?
can you try again? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hear you. Look at that.
Okay, all
I don't know
right.
what was going on there, but here we are. I'm sure you love hearing me test. So, thanks, guys, for your patience on that.
Thank you for your patience as well.
Gotta love technology. Alrighty. I wasn't sure if the municipality, the planning department would be sharing the presentation or if you'll need me to pull that up.
It's easiest if you just pull it up.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds then. Alrighty, let me know when you're able to see it.
We can see it. Might need to adjust the size for us.
Yes, absolutely. Trying to have my notes up on the screen at the same time, so let me know if that works for you there, zoomed in.
Go to the next page. Let's see.
Is the size okay?
If you could make it larger, be better. If not, we can
Okay.
give it a try.
I might lose a little bit of content on the side. I just have to keep a side window open, so.
Okay.
That might be the best I can do. Is it?
Okay, let's try
workable?
it. Yeah, let's try it, Jacqueline, for sure.
Okay, thank you, guys. All right, so I'll jump into it. Good evening, and yeah, I appreciate your patience there as I work through my technical difficulties, and thanks for providing the time to consider our proposal as well. My name is Jacqueline Johnston. I work for Forbes Bros Ltd, and I'm here today on behalf of Explore Inc., who have proposed a new broadband tower in the municipality of South Dundas. My goal today is to provide some background on the project and the current state of the consultation process. I've tried to keep things as concise as possible to stay within our delegation timeframes. If there's any questions, I will ask that you refrain till the end of the presentation. I'll jump to the next slide here. So a quick note about Explore, if anyone is unfamiliar. Explore, which was previously known as ExploreNet, is one of Canada's leading broadband service providers. They deliver broadband solutions to mostly rural customers at work, home, and play across Canada. Explore Broadband is provided through a hybrid network or fixed wireless sites, fiber network, and satellite networks as well. The discussion today concerns a fixed wireless portion of that network, which is also known as a telecommunications tower site. So before we go into the specifics of our site in South Dundas, I want to briefly touch on the higher level purpose of what has been proposed. In Canada, high-speed broadband internet has been deemed an essential service. It is an essential utility similar to electricity, and the difficulties of not having access to that service has been really highlighted in these past few years, especially our reliance on those services for things like working from home. For an example, this evening's meeting tonight would not be possible without broadband services. I believe we should consider the service being provided as not just the individual piece of infrastructure, but as a part of the larger goal of connecting more rural residents to a strong and reliable internet connection. So in order to continue to provide and improve that broadband service throughout South Dundas and surrounding regions, Explore has proposed a new freestanding broadband tower located at 3415 County Road 7, Chesterville, Ontario. The location is approximately 315 meters north of the McBride and County Road 7 intersection and approximately 330 meters north of the nearest residential area. The proposed development will use an existing access route on the property to construct and maintain the site. Additionally, there are several silos and barns located in nearby proximity, and the current use of those buildings will remain. The tower site is a 9 by 9 meter leasehold area towards the northern boundary of the subject property, and the power for the site would be pulled from an existing hydro pole, and the land uses immediately surrounding the property are also agricultural. So at this location, Explore has proposed a 45 meter tall light duty steel lattice support structure or tower. The facility is 2.7 meters wide at the base and tapers up in width towards the top. Transmitting and receiving antenna equipment is mounted in the top half of the structure, and a ground-based equipment cabinet houses radio equipment, cabling, etc., which is approximately 2.4 meters by 1.8 meters. Tower height allows for antenna equipment to propagate the signal over the top of obstacles, trees, building topography, etc., and maintain line of sight connections to their other Explore infrastructure and customer receivers. So this is a photo rendering of what the facility would look like on the subject property. The photo was taken on the south corner of the subject property along County Road 7. Although the proposed structure is tall, it has a textured appearance and has low reflectivity qualities, and the structure is essentially hollow, which is meant to reduce contrast with the backdrop and allows viewers to see through the structure as opposed to one kind of smooth surface or visual obstruction. So in Canada, telecommunications and its associated infrastructure are exclusively regulated by the federal government under the Radio Communications Act. The consultation procedures are administered through the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. Proponents of new antenna systems are required to consult with the local land use authority and usually the public for input at the local level. In this case, the municipality of South Dundas does have a policy in place specific to telecommunications infrastructure, of which we're required to follow. So to date, we have fulfilled the consultation requirements through written submission of plans and reports to the municipality along with a fee payment. Additionally, we've conducted public consultation, and it was completed in the I believe it was 3 weeks ago, and to a degree, I guess, is ongoing as well with this meeting. We mailed out notices to property owners within 135 meters of the subject property boundary, which is 3 times the tower height, as well as to 2 newspapers in the local municipality, which were identified to us by the planning department. In this case, it's the Morrisburg Leader and the Chesterville Record. The goal of these procedures is to solicit input from the municipality and public at the local level, and although the Land Use Authority is not the technical approval authority, we do require recommendation from council or its designate. So through our public consultation efforts, we received no inquiries or concerns, and to date the municipality has not indicated any specific objections to the site either. So in summary, we've completed our consultation process. We've had no flagged issues, and I'd like to ask council will provide us with a concurrence letter at this time. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Excellent update, good information. Any comments, concerns from the council team? No concerns or questions with us here, Jacqueline?
Okay.
So